Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We have an update on the Rust shooting. Nothing like huge as an update. It's more how the husband of Helena Hutchins feels over everything. He's done an extended interview, and I thought we would cover it because he's not pulling his punches. He's been pretty straight down the line on it, and this comes after they've launched legal action, which they'd taken a really long time to do. And Alec Baldwin had already basically said, nope, I'm not responsible at all. So this is after that. And his statement is basically, it's completely absurd. What are you talking about? How can you say that you're not responsible in any way, shape or form? And I completely agree. The article that I'll be pulling this from will be linked down below. So please do check it out along with me. And if you've enjoyed the coverage or you've appreciated it, however way you want to word it, please do hit that thumbs up button, and please do hit subscribe. But let's dive into this today, and I hope you're well. I hope you're having a great day. The updates on this have been few and far between recently. I think we'll be getting some more updates soon. It's looking likely anyway. So let's take a look. So, husband of Rust cinematographer, obviously killed by Alec Baldwin, finds the actor's dodging of responsibility to be absurd, and it is absurd. I mean, I did my video on it, and I was just like, how on earth are you even claiming this? Like, how are you saying that there's literally no responsibility from your side of things? Like, I understand why he is, but it does sound really stupid just to say, yeah, we're not responsible in any way, shape or form. Please, come on. So, the husband of Helena Hutchins, the cinematographer, tragically killed by Alec Baldwin, and ultimately, unequivocally something which could have been avoided, has now declared that he finds the idea of the disgraced actor not taking responsibility for the death of his wife absurd, and it is absurd. You know, he was an important producer on the movie. They would have vetted the individuals that they hired. And that's outside of the situation that he, is a part of directly in terms of holding the gun. So Matthew Hutchins opened up about his wife's death during an interview with the Today Show host Hoda Kotb. I don't know how to say that name. During the interview, the widower recalled that after his wife was shot and killed by Baldwin in late October of last year, the actor reportedly reached out to him to offer his condolences and support, which is, that does corroborate what we had heard that, right? Like, it does corroborate that. So it's nice to see, at least, that he wasn't talking complete nonsense. He says, I feel like to understand that moment, you have to remember the shock we were in. And I spoke with Mr. Baldwin and was just looking for a way through the storm. Now, he was then asked, whether the actor looked distraught at the time. Hutchins replied, there were a lot of emotions for sure on both sides, which, again, of course there would be. Like, this doesn't negate those kind of previous statements. Hutchins would then take some time to address Baldwin's, and it is now infamous, post-shooting interview with ABC News' George Stephanopoulos, revealing that he felt a sense of dread and terror at what he was going to say. Because remember, like, this is an interview which is very ill-advised. Like, you shouldn't be doing an interview after you are, that you've just killed someone, right? Like, what are you doing? Only Hollywood elite would get away with such. I mean, it's very brazen. And for that not to be used against you in some shape or form, like, it's very strange behaviour. But I mean, that is a certain level of privilege, and it is a privilege not afforded to everyone else to be able to do that, not go into custody, not be chased down the police, refuse to basically give your phone up even though there's a warrant out for it, and then go off and give an interview and basically say, yeah, I didn't do anything. That interview should have been something which the police were conducting with you, not live on air for money, because I bet you would have been paid. It was an exclusive. And probably wouldn't have been approved by the family either, Hutchins, right? Now, Hutchins did say he revealed that he felt a sense of dread and terror at what he was going to say in regards to the incident that took his wife's life and injured the film's director Joel Souza. Watching him, I just felt so angry, Hutchins stated. I had been overcome by this anger when I saw Helena at the funeral home, and it all really crystallized. I was trying to manage that anger, and it really came out when I was watching him. He would go on and say, I was just so angry to see him talk about her death so publicly in such a detailed way. It's really disrespectful. Like it is. Like it was pretty soon after the situation had occurred, and he's just talking about it. It's really disrespectful. Like this woman had children. Like for goodness sake. And then he goes on to say about the responsibility. He says, and then to not accept any responsibility after having just described killing her. When he was asked whether he believed the majority of the blame lays on Baldwin, Hutchins asserted, the idea that the person holding the gun and causing it to discharge is not responsible is absurd to me. Every individual who touches a firearm has a responsibility for gun safety. That's just gun safety 101. Like, yeah, you're completely right. Now, he would then allude to the denial of responsibility put forth by Baldwin during his interview with Stephanopoulos. Cott would then ask Hutchins what his thoughts were on the actor openly admitting to not feeling guilt for killing his wife Helena. And Hutchins would say this. Do you remember? Like, you've got to say this. Like, you have to bear this in mind. He's just lost his wife, and that's the person that did it. In terms of actually holding the gun, it was the item that caused his wife's death, and this individual just says, yeah, I'm not responsible in any way. I don't feel guilty. And so he replies, almost sounds like he was the victim. Yeah, because he was sat there crying, crocodile tears. And he says, and hearing him blame Helena in the interview, because it was like, oh, she was standing here and I was standing there, and she told me to do this, and she wasn't on a, she wasn't with a camera that was mobile and all this kind of stuff. Like, what? He's very much shifting blame. And then Hutchins says, and seeing him cry about it, it just felt like, are we really supposed to feel bad about you, Mr. Baldwin? Because it is. This is the expert narcissism, and it is narcissism. This is the expert level narcissism that Alec Baldwin has displayed ever since. He has shifted this entire situation from Helena Hutchins and the tragedy that occurred there with the family and the individuals that now have to pick up the pieces of their life to Alec Baldwin being a victim. Oh, I feel really sad. This has happened to me, and, I had to deal with this, and, I'm getting abuse and blah, blah, blah. It's like, what? You're getting the abuse because you're telling people you don't feel guilty, you're not responsible in any way, shape, or form. If you just kept your mouth shut, you probably would have got some sympathy as well, and less abuse. But you had to open your mouth, you narcissist. And that's what it is, textbook level narcissism. It's disgusting. Now, in this interview with Stephanopoulos, Baldwin claimed that he was not responsible for the death of Helena Hutchins. Adding insult to injury, the actor argued that it was the cinematographer who was partly responsible for her own death, for suggesting he pointed the gun at the camera for a particular shot. People said to me, I got countless people online saying, you idiot, you never point a gun at someone. Well, unless you are told it's empty, and it is the director of photography who's instructing you on the angle of a shot we're going to do. Literally saying, yeah, it's her fault. She told me to do this. He continued, and she and I had this thing in common where we both thought it was empty, and it wasn't. And that's not her responsibility. It's not my responsibility. Whose responsibility remains to be seen. Even hearing this stuff, it still riles me up. Again, narcissist. Stephanopoulos interjected, well, there are some who say that you are never supposed to point a gun at anyone on a set no matter what, which is completely right. To which Baldwin would respond, unless the person is the cinematographer who's directing me where to point the gun for her camera angle. That's exactly what happened. Ugh. So anyway, Baldwin would further claim in this infamous interview that he did not pull the trigger on the gun when it fired and killed Helena, reassuring the Stephanopoulos that he was only cocking the hammer when the firearm went off accidentally. This was a completely incidental shot, an angle that might not have ended up in the film at all, but we kept doing this. So then I said to her, now in this scene I'm going to cock the gun, do you want to see that? And she said yeah. Baldwin would then claim, so I take the gun and start to cock the gun. I'm not going to pull the trigger. I said, do you see this? Well, just cheat it down and tilt it down a little bit like that. And I cock the gun and I go, can you see that? Can you see that? Can you see that? And she says, and I let go of the hammer and of the gun, and the gun goes off. I let go of the hammer of the gun, and the gun goes off. It's just, yeah, it's pretty tragic, to be fair. So Hutchins now obviously has a lawsuit against Baldwin, and that claims that Baldwin and the other producers were aware that armourer Hannah Gutierrez-Reed was inexperienced. They would have to know because she would have a form of a CV, a resume, and yet still ignored Gutierrez-Reed's concerns that performing the dual roles, because she was a armourer and assistant prop master, would result in lapses in basic firearm safety. I mean, that's pretty much a given, isn't it? Let's be honest. The wrongful death and loss of consortium complaint specifically accuses Baldwin and all defendants of engaging in negligent, intentional, willful or reckless misconduct, resulting in wrongful death and causing loss of consortium or emotional losses to Matthew, who had been married to Helena for 16 years at the time of her death. It's pretty inarguable. In this interview with today's Hoda, Hutchins asserted, every holiday, Christmas, New Year's, our anniversary, my birthday, Valentine's Day, every holiday is difficult without her. Explaining that this tragic event has been difficult for both himself and their 9-year-old son, Andros, which of course it would be. And there's so many lawsuits against Baldwin now. But he doesn't care. He's off bloody buying, real estate and stuff like this. There's so many of these. Now you can watch, the interview's quite long. It's 25 minutes long. You can watch it because I've linked the article down below if you want. But there you go, ladies and gentlemen. There's not much else to go into, really. That's it, really. It's tragic, isn't it? But it's interesting to hear the thoughts of someone that's, having to deal with it on a day-to-day basis. And it'll be interesting to see the response from the public, I guess. Because when Baldwin came out, it was very strange. People were like, oh yeah, he's a victim. No, he's not a fucking victim. He's not a victim in any way, shape or form. Shut up. You shouldn't have done the interview in the first place. This is a true victim. This individual here is a true victim. So let me know what you think down below. Hope you appreciate the content and the update. Like and share. Take care.